Hi gamers, this is Guard. It's no secret that Nintendo is working on their next generation console right now, what's coming after the Wii U. And although we shouldn't expect that system to come out anytime soon, unlike past generations, Nintendo actually gave us a little insight onto what we could expect. Now, the reason I'm talking about this is because I'll say by far the majority of people seem very much unaware of what Nintendo said during the investors briefing a few months ago. And I think what Nintendo spoke about, what Mr. Iwata, which is the current global president of Nintendo, what he said during that briefing is the most genius plan I've ever heard from Nintendo. And as a Nintendo fan, this is something I just cannot wait. I just can't wait for this. This is big. This is very, very big. And no, by the way, what I'm gonna talk about is not a rumor, it's not speculation. I will be giving my opinions on the matter, but this is all fact that came directly from Nintendo, and I will have a link in the description to what Mr. Iwata spoke about during that investors briefing, for anyone who hasn't seen it yet, or for those who are a little skeptical. So Nintendo spoke about two main things. First is that their console and handheld teams will now be working together. So how will this work exactly? Will you be needing a separate device perhaps that you'll need to buy, or that'll be bundled with the entire package to play games on the go, or will it actually be one device that can do two things? Now I can understand this may seem kind of disappointing at first. You're like, well, what's so amazing about the 3DS is the fact it's so unique. It's not like a console on the go. It's very unique. Games on a 3DS do not play like games on the Wii or the Wii U. Not at all. They have their own unique games, and they're unique to the 3DS. Well, here's the thing. One thing that needs to be clear is that they're not only working together on hardware, but they're also going to be working together on software, which comes to perhaps the biggest awesome plan that Nintendo is cooking up for us. And that plan is supposed to help minimize game gaps as much as possible for Nintendo systems, because there's no denying that Nintendo systems all have ridiculous game gaps. It is, I would say, the only main issue when it comes to Nintendo hardware. Let's face it, the bias towards Nintendo in the gaming industry is ridiculous. And although many people will be like, Nintendo has so many issues, they do this wrong, they do this wrong, I answer, they do none of that wrong. What they do wrong is one thing and one thing alone, and it's the fact that we have to wait most of the time. Sometimes, not necessarily, but most of the times we have to wait a very long time to play their awesome games. And that is what Nintendo wants to fix. So here's what they're planning to do. Imagine all of your favorite 3DS games with Wii U quality. Now, that could be from a visual perspective, or could be maybe an extra level or two, maybe a bigger world in some of those games. Who knows? I think the least we could expect is a very noticeable visual upgrade. I think it's the least we could expect. So, technically speaking, all of your favorite 3DS games would just by default be better. And the 3DS has a lot of great games. Imagine if all those 3DS games were actually made from the ground up on the Wii U, and they were exclusive to the Wii U. So let's take this year, for example, in 2014. On the Wii U, we had Donkey Kong Country Tropical Freeze in February, and we have Mario Kart 8 in May. Can't wait for that game, by the way. Now, notice that there's like a 3-month game gap between DK and Mario Kart. Imagine if Yoshi's New Island, was actually made exclusively for the Wii U, right? And same thing goes with Kirby's Triple Deluxe. Those two games are actually came out in between that period of time. So we have Donkey Kong Country Tropical Freeze in February. Then in March we'd have Yoshi's New Island. Then on May 2nd we'd get Kirby's Triple Deluxe. And finally Mario Kart 8 on May 30th. That 2 to 3 month game gap, gone. That's what Nintendo wants to do. Last year in 2013 sounds even more impressive. Imagine if exclusively, again, for the Wii U, made from the ground up, alright? Imagine if we had The Legend of Zelda, A Link Between Worlds, Mario and Luigi Dream Team, Pokemon X and Y, Luigi's Mansion Dark Moon, Fire Emblem Awakening, and I could go on, right? Let's stick to Nintendo software. Imagine if all of those great games were right there alongside Pikmin 3, The Wonderful 101, Sonic Lost World, Wind Waker HD, Super Mario 3D World. You get the idea? That is Nintendo's plan to minimize game gaps. Now, keeping in mind that all of those games will also look, very much better. I would think if they're made from the ground up for the Wii U, I think the least we could expect is really, really awesome visuals, and I think that's very welcome. I mean, Nintendo has proven time and time again that they're the gods of gameplay. Now, add amazing, even like cool, unique, awesome visuals to that. I think that's great to have. Now, I know some of you out there are going to be like, well, what about third parties? Because let's be honest, third parties are there to fill in those game gaps. But that's the thing, Nintendo cannot rely on third parties. They had to find a brand new strategy that won't be what I think was their original plan with the Wii U, which is to have everything that Nintendo offers alongside everything from third parties. Because yes, I agree with everyone that says a Nintendo system that has every single awesome first and second party amazing Nintendo games alongside everything from third parties, all the multiplats that would at least play and look just as good as the competition, doesn't have to look or play better, just as good, right? If Nintendo did that, then they would take the video game industry by storm. I don't disagree with that. I think that is accurate. But the issue with this is I don't see that ever happening. Never say never, of course, but I don't see this happening. The problem with that strategy is that making a third-party game for Nintendo home consoles is a risk of its own. Third parties know that no matter what Nintendo brings to the table, it's just going to by far outshine everything third parties are going to bring themselves. Bring in some really, highly rated third-party games, even close to one of a popular Nintendo game, and that third-party game's just not going to do well. That's how it is. It's not even going to get recognition. It's just mainly going to be that Nintendo game that's going to do really, really well. Also, why would third parties bother going after Nintendo where they know that the target audience for their games, for third-party games, are not on Nintendo systems? If people love games on a Sony and Microsoft platforms, or they appreciate games on those platforms, then they're going to get a Sony or Microsoft platform. Nintendo is not the place to go for that. I don't have a single problem with a Nintendo systems that does have all of that, but I just do not see it happening. The harsh reality is that if the Wii U originally came out as the most powerful system on the market, right? And I'm not talking about as powerful as the PlayStation 4. I'm talking about more powerful than the PlayStation 4. I would not be so certain if Nintendo would have the third-party games that many of you think they would get. I just don't see third parties invest so much money onto a platform that generation after generation after generation proved that they are just simply not successful on that platform. So yes, certainly, you'll see more support than the Wii U has now from third parties. But the Wii U would certainly not have them all. I don't see that happening. That's why Nintendo came up with a strategy so that they don't have to rely on third parties. And their strategy relies on, well, themselves. Now, yes, Nintendo also, and this I guess can come into a second point here, where Nintendo is allowing third parties access to Nintendo characters and IPs. And they're going to do this more than they ever did. That's what Nintendo said during that briefing, right? I think that's great. Actually, I think that's a very smart strategy. First of all, you're essentially securing the exclusivity. That's something that's not always easy to do, right? But if you have Link in a game, right, you can't have that game anywhere else. No matter how hard you try, it's gonna be an exclusive to Nintendo. And I think that's also a smart strategy to secure plenty of exclusives. And they would be coming from third parties, which could give us more games to minimize those game gaps, and different games, right? Because third parties don't make games like Nintendo. And I think we could also expect those third-party games to feature some level of quality, right? Because, look, let's take Hyrule Warriors, for example. Do you think Nintendo just handed over The Legend of Zelda to Tecmo Koei and said, make a Dynasty Warriors game out of it, release it when you want, we'll call it a day? No way. Impossible. Impossible. You bet Nintendo is keeping a very, very close eye on its development, and you bet that Nintendo are the ones who are going to be like, yeah, that game, ready for launch. Of course, one thing to note is that Nintendo fans are definitely able alone to actually give Nintendo profit, but they're not able to give Nintendo big profit. So Nintendo needs to reach outside of Nintendo fans, right? And this strategy, again, appeals to more than just the Nintendo fans. Because there's a lot of people who want to play that Zelda, Smash Brothers, Mario Kart, you name it. So many people want to play those amazing games, but most of them don't want to buy a system just for 2-3 games. Now, any Nintendo fan will just be like, look, Smash, that's good enough. Like, I'll just buy a system for Smash. I bought a Wii U because of all the amazing Nintendo games that would come on it. Not just Smash, but all the other amazing games. Pikmin 3 was one of those games. Alright, Wind Waker HD, the next gen Zelda that I can't wait to see. The Mario 3D World, right? Those are amazing games. Donkey Kong Country Tropical Freeze, Smash Brothers, of course, and Mario Kart 8, and more. I mean, I buy a Nintendo game. For me, those Nintendo games alone justify purchasing a system, but for most people, no. For most people, they need more than that. And Nintendo's issue is not that they don't have Microsoft or Sony-like games. It's that they don't have enough games to fill those game gaps in between those big Nintendo releases. So I hope you appreciated what I spoke of. I hope it made at least some of you Nintendo fans smile out there. Maybe some of you are hyped. I hope. I certainly am. That's it. That's Nintendo's plans to minimize game gaps, and I can't wait. I think that's great. I mean, you tell a Nintendo fan, hey, we're gonna give you a system that's gonna have more of the type of games that you love. I think that's just amazing. Alright, so take care to you Nintendo fans and all around gamers. Enjoy gaming. Guard out.